years, was in usual state of health when she developed heavy menstrual bleeding with the passage of clots. Initially soaked 7 to 8 pads per day for 3 days and then soaked 3 to 4 pads each day for further 7 days. The cycle was prolonged for 10 by 30 days. There was a history of flooding as well. Bleeding was so heavy that she was unable to perform routine activity during those days. She had complained of easy fatigability, palpitation, and shortness of breath after climbing up the stairs. There was no history of orthopnea. There was no history of blood transfusion. Also associated with lower abdominal pain, we started with the onset of menstruation that gradually improved. It was spasmodic, gradating to back and thigh and relieved by oral analgesic. There was no aggravating factor. There was no history of intermenstrual bleeding, postcoital bleeding, no history of dyspareunia or pervaginal discharge, no history of yellow discoloration of eye, weight loss, and loss of appetite, no history of cold intolerance, insomnia, and constipation, no history of acne, excessive hair growth, no history of easy bruisability, prolonged bleeding from the wound, no history of nose bleeding, no history of heavy bleeding after surgery, no history of excessive bleeding with dental extraction. There was no history of drug intake like warfarin. There was no history of joint pain, rashes, photosensitivity, and there no history of burning micturition, frequency, urgency, and hematuria. There was normal bowel habits. She visited her local gynecologist for this campaign on
Yes. Uh, If you stop, for the information of all the students participating, Dr. Mavish has enumerated a list of no, 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 no. I personally feel she has been helped by writing a good history, because all these know what she has are relevant to this patient. They are not irrelevant. And so these negative things, he has no easy fatigue, no dental extraction bleeding, all these things which he has said, they are relevant to the present patient when we make a differential diagnosis. So first lesson to all of you is, do say negative features or positive features in the history which help you to make a differential diagnosis. Here is a patient who complains of heavy menstrual bleeding and some kind of pain. And the features, these two complaints, the features he has, Dr. Mavish mentioned, I'll ask over that negative features again. No, 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 no. Please, can you repeat that? After that, when you started negative, no history of this, no history of, from there.
There was no history of intermenstrual bleeding, postcoital bleeding, no history of dyspareunia or
Just a minute. No history of postcoital bleeding, and here it is relevant because when you say no history of postcoital bleeding, possibly there is no local cause in the cervix or in the vagina.
Vagina, yes, sir.
So that's how she is referring to the heavy bleeding. That possible cause could be in the cervix, and by saying no postcoital bleeding, that means she is in a way helping us to think about cervix and then rule out that. Thank you. What's the next one?
There was no history of dyspareunia or PV discharge, no history of viral.
Just a minute. No history of vaginal discharge or dyspareunia. When there is dyspareunia, then immediately the causes you think of are pelvic inflammatory disease and endometriosis. So the presenter says there's no such history. It means possibly even that is not the cause of her heavy menstrual bleeding, because heavy menstrual bleeding could be due to pelvic congestion or endometriosis. Next, yes, what's the next?
No history of yellow discoloration of eye, weight loss, and loss of appetite.
Yeah. No history of weight loss, discoloration of eye. It means she has now from local causes moved on to the general causes. General causes. that she doesn't have any liver disease, jaundice, and would lead to bleeding dyscrasia and heavy menstruation. So that's also a very good reference. Next.
There was no history of cold intolerance, insomnia, and constipation.
Well, that also, in a
जी
way,
sir.
her good health. Yes. Next.
There was no history of acne and excessive hair growth.
Yeah. When, when there is endocrinological upset, like PCO,
Yes, sir.
it's not directly the cause of heavy menstrual bleeding, but if there's endocrinological upset, the patient would get hirsutism, acne, things like that. Yeah, to the presenter, that is not present in this patient. What is next?
There was no history of easy bruisability, prolonged bleeding from the wound, no history of nose bleeding, no history of heavy bleeding after surgery, and no history of excessive bleeding with.
So, in the case of heavy menstrual bleeding, one of the differential diagnoses is blood dyscrasia, bleeding disease. So, by saying that if in the past she had tooth extraction or surgery and there was no heavy bleeding, so very good. So, uh, remember, uh, this history will get you a pass mark because they are all relevant negatives. All so when you add unnecessarily everything, no history of pulmonary tuberculosis, no history of this. Pulmonary tuberculosis doesn't cause heavy menstrual bleeding. Rarely it would. Rarely it would. Normally it causes amenorrhea. But you people are in the habit of saying negative like that. No, here she has not even mentioned as yet whether she is diabetic or not, because diabetes is not relevant in this patient. But I'm sure all of you would add all these things. No, no history of TB, no history of diabetes, no history of hypertension. No, well, they are in a way helpful, but not focused onto the patient. As in this history, Dr. Mavish has focused on this. Yes, then we move on. Yes, please.
Acha. There was no history of burning micturition, frequency, urgency, and hematuria. There was normal bowel habit. She visited her local gynecologist for this complaint on January 2020. Her gynecologist advised hormonal treatment, which she took 3 cycles of hormonal treatment, which significantly improved her symptoms. Her initial workup was done by her gynecologist. At that time, ultrasound report was normal according to patient.
Again, stop here. She visited a doctor or gynecologist. Uh, the doctor immediately put her on some treatment.
Yes, sir.
And again, you should be prepared. This is not the way you're going to deal with the patients. If a patient comes to you, then you should do some investigations
Yes,
first
sir.
and then prescribe. Don't put them on hormones or anything like that. So your criticism of management of this patient would be that instead of just prescribing some treatment, maybe hormonal or anything, you should do first some investigation to make sure what is the differential diagnosis. And making it final diagnosis, only then you should prescribe. So this kind of criticism you should also be ready to make during your exam. Next, yes, please.
Sir, her initial workup was done by her gynecologist. At that time, ultrasound report was normal according to patient. Her hemoglobin was 8 gram per deciliter and prescribed oral iron supplement. She's taking oral iron since then. She remained all right for 2 months and now.
Just a minute. Her hemoglobin was 8 grams
जी sir.
and she was given oral iron. This is the history.
जी sir.
Just go home today with one tip from me. In your presentation, you will say hemoglobin was 8 grams, and possibly, here because diagnosis is not made, confirmed, that possibly she had iron deficiency anemia.
जी sir.
Hence, she was prescribed iron. You are telling the examiner that first will confirm whether that 8 gram hemoglobin was because of iron deficiency or anything else. So normally, that is the first I'm giving it, that when you say a patient has hemoglobin of 8 grams or 9 grams or whatever, you should add, I will confirm whether this is iron deficiency anemia and then prescribe iron. Don't just say hemoglobin 8 gram and go on iron. No. So in examination, if you're prescribing iron, you'll say her hemoglobin is 8 gram, possibly
Possibly.
iron deficiency anemia. I'll confirm it and then put her on iron. Okay, next. Go on.
Now she is presented to us with the complaint of severe lower abdominal pain, which is sudden in onset, continuous, very in intensity, just above the pubic symphysis. There was no aggravating or relieving factor. It is also associated with nausea and vomiting. Her menarche was at 13 of age. Her last menstrual period was 23rd January 2021. Her menstrual cycle was regular with average flow till last year. Now her cycle was prolonged, stand by 30 days with heavy menstrual bleeding and also associated with severe lower abdominal pain. There was no gynecological malignancy. Pap smear was not taken. She is using a barrier method for contraception. She is para 3 abortion 1, previous 3 cesarean section. All 3 sections were carried out at term with no antepartum, intrapartum and postpartum complication. Babies were average weight and good FGAR with breastfed and vaccinated, all alive and healthy, and last child is 9 years ago. She had first trimester spontaneous miscarriage in which no DNC was done. She has been a known case of hepatitis C virus for last 4 years. She took treatment for 2 years and then she had regular follow-up with her physician. There was no history of diabetes mellitus, hypertension, asthma, tuberculosis, coagulative disorder. She was not on anticoagulant drug. She had previous 3 cesarean section. There was no family history of diabetes mellitus, hypertension, thyroid disease, tuberculosis, asthma, coagulation disorder, and malignancy. She was a non-smoker, non-addict, non-alcoholic, and no tobacco taking. Patient was belonged to a middle-class family. She has her own house. Her husband is a leather merchant and was earning 50 to 60,000 monthly. Her husband fulfilled all necessities she needed. Examination. My patient was uncomfortably lying on bed due to pain. Her weight 60 kg, height 5 feet 2 inches, and body mass index was 24. Her blood pressure 100 by 60 millimeter of mercury, pulse 102 beats per minute, regular with good volume, temperature 98 Fahrenheit scale, and respiratory rate 18 breath per minute. She is paler on palmar creases, nail bed, and conjunctiva.
Okay, we'll skip rest of the, anything on a general examination.
Abdominal examination. Her on inspection, her abdomen uniformly protuberant with central place umbilicus moving with respiration. There was surgical scar mark above the pubic symphysis. There was no visible pulsation, pigmentation, prominent vein. All hernia orifices were intact. On superficial palpation, there was no tenderness. On deep palpation, there was a mass just above the pubic symphysis, 14 to 16 weeks in size with irregular surface, firm in consistency and mobile, and there was tenderness. On local examination, there was mild bleeding on pad, vulva and vagina normal looking. Per speculum examination, cervix healthy looking, no abnormal growth or mass seen. On bimanual examination, uterus 14 to 16 weeks size, irregular, firm, inconsistency, anteverted and mobile. Bilateral adnexa seems to be clear.
Give me again. Bimanual.
On bimanual examination, uterus 14 to 16 weeks size, irregular, firm, inconsistency, anteverted, mobile. Bilateral adnexa seems to be clear.
Okay. Very good history. Very good. I will give you positive marks for that. But there was one thing missing, perhaps I overheard that. Did you give us history of pap smear?
Yes, sir.
You did say that, but
Sir.
Maybe I missed that. So pap smear is one important investigation which should have been which should be included every history in our country, and because 99% chances that she never had pap smear,
जी sir.
but it should be said. And during pregnancy, you mentioned she practices barrier method of contraception.
जी sir.
Normally, you should give separate history of contraception. She never practices any contraception, history of contraception, or she practices barrier method, pill, or whatever. History of contraception should be taken as of pap smear. Okay. Now here is the. Can you give us some?
My patient, 30 years old, married for 16 years, para 3 abortion 1, previously cesarean section, last child born is 9 years ago, presented to us with the complaint of heavy menstrual bleeding for last 1 year and severe lower abdominal pain for last 2 days. On examination, there was a palpable mass just above the pubic symphysis, about 14 to 16 weeks in size, 5 in consistency with irregular surface and mobile. Bilateral adnexia seems to be clear.
Good. Now for discussion, I will just change your physical findings that on physical examination, her uterus, a bimetal examination, her uterus is just bulky or instead of this 14, 16 week size, change that finding that when you did bimetal, uterus was nearly normal in size and anti-mobile. Because this will give us opportunity to discuss differential diagnosis. With your findings, differential diagnosis practically reduces to only fibroids.
Yes.
So, uterus, 38-year-old woman, uterus 14 to 16 weeks in size, firm in consistency, not tender, mobile. The differential diagnosis, fibroid. Number 2 is fibroid. Number 3 is fibroid. Nothing comes to our mind other than unlikely things. It is enlarged. What are other causes of enlargement of the uterus? Let me ask you this question.
Sir,
If it
possibly,
is 14 to 16 weeks right now.
sir, it can be fibroid, adenomyosis,
Good.
or sir, it can be pregnant, matlab, gravity
Yeah,
stress.
right. The first diagnosis of adenomyosis is pregnancy.
Pregnancy, sir.
Even though she had her LMP only a month ago, even though there could be two things. One, that she wrongly gives you the date 1 month, LMP 1 month ago. But second, the patient is having bleeding with pregnancy. Bleeding with pregnancy. That's why it's Islam that after the death of the husband, there's iddat, what they call, the wife is confined to the house for 3 months. Because for they could be bleeding, which is wrongly mistaken as menses, whereas the patient is pregnant. Whereas patient is pregnant. So irregular bleeding can be there. So always include pregnancy in the differential diagnosis. In the differential diagnosis. So, but to expand our discussion, dilate our differential diagnosis, and I say I have changed the findings into here is a patient with all the history same, whatever you have presented. 38-year-old, 3 cesarean sections, and last childbirth 9 years ago, and etc. etc. The only change is that findings are that the uterus is, let's say, normal in size or just birth. So, in your opinion, what with this finding, what will be the diagnosis?
Normal size. Sir, it can be polyp, endometrial hyperplasia,
Good, very good.
Any malignancy?
Malignancy where?
Sir, endometrial carcinoma या फिर CA cervix, carcinoma of cervix,
Good.
and any foreign body?
Very, very good.
Contraceptive device.
Good. And these are the local causes.
जी sir.
Did you say fibroid also? You have not said fibroid.
Sir,
Because the uterus could be
you just
bursting with small fibroids, a small fibroid polyp.
जी sir.
Yeah.
Sir, fibroid.
We,
Yes, sir,
we
fibroid.
include fibroid as well in the
जी
this
sir. जी sir.
small fibroid.
Small fibroid, sir, seedling fibroid.
Okay, very good. So these are the possibilities. Now, just digressing away from this patient. I'm not talking about this patient, but whenever you think differential diagnosis in a gynecological patient for this kind of bleeding or any other thing, always start thinking about the bleeding because number one, congenital causes. Number two, causes inside the uterus. Number three, causes in the wall of the uterus. Number four, then outside the uterus.
Outside. जी
That
sir.
is ovaries or adnexus.
Adnexus.
Number five, general diseases or endocrinological upsets. And last of all, bleeding diseases. Last of all, bleeding disease, or we can add iatrogenic drugs given. So, for any problem when you get a patient, think your thought should go over, is the cause congenital? Is the cause inside the uterine cavity or uterine wall, or adnexa means ovary
Outside the
and
uterus.
other surrounding structures, and then you move over. General diseases, iatrogenic, and anything which has not a bleeding disease, as I said. So you should think of these 6. Now, in this patient, we come back to, in this patient, congenital could not be there because she's 38 years old.
38 years old. जी sir.
Just before we started the class, somebody asked, heavy menstrual bleeding in an adolescent age. Obviously, their congenital defects of the uterus will come in, but not in this patient. But so we exclude that. Don't say that Rashid told us start from congenital in this patient, 38-year-old, congenital causes. Unnecessarily, you'll get into difficulty. But this thought process, go through this list. Could it be congenital? No, it can't be in this patient. Then cause could be inside the uterine cavity. Dr. Mavish mentioned that it could be a polyp. And always be prepared to enumerate types of polypi in the uterine cavity. The types of polypi are endometrial polyp, adenomatous polyp, then fibroid polyp, and then placental polyp inside the uterine cavity. From last pregnancy, some placental piece left here because last pregnancy was 9 years ago, may not be placental polyp. And last of all, malignant polyp. These are 4 polypi in the uterine cavity. I go over it again. Adenomatous polyp, fibroid polyp, placental polyp, and endometrial carcinoma or carcinomatous polyp. Because endometrial carcinoma could be polypoidal or could be just spreading in the wall. And cervical polypi are, except placental polyp, in cervix we have those three types. Rest. Adenomatous polyp in cervix, fibroid polyp, or carcinomatous polyp. So these are two types of polypi which you see in the endometrial cavity or from the cervix. And then outside cervix, in the wall, fibroids or adenomatous, adenomyosis. Fibroids of various types, anything. And these days, FIGO has classified them from 1 to 7. And you say any of those 1 to 7 types of fibroid. Then outside, for a patient who is having heavy menstruation, could be congestive or pelvic congestion, or PID, pelvic inflammatory disease. And endometriosis can also be responsible for with pain. Here, the pain has been there only for 2 weeks. So it could not be endometriosis in this patient. The endometriotic pain, if she's 38, maybe the pain would have been there for last few years. Endometriosis symptoms, they may start in 20s or early 30s. She's 38 and this pain for 2 weeks could be only localized cause, could be in the urinary tract or any infection anywhere. So like that, then you go into general diseases like bleeding disease, any drugs she has taken, or I missed one thing in the uterine cavity, foreign body, as you mentioned. Foreign body. Foreign body could be these days Mirena, levonorgestrel intrauterine system, and brand name is Mirena, or for contraception, copper T or IUD inserted in there. They can also cause heavy menstrual bleeding. So that's how we go. So if your thought process is focused onto these 6-7 headings, you will not miss anything which examiner might say, oh, you didn't say that. You didn't say that. Now, we come to, because if it was a case of fibroid, directly this patient who is 38-year-old and has these symptoms, he have confirmed the diagnosis by ultrasound. The fibroids are there, right? What other investigations you will do in this patient?
माइक अनम्यूट कर लें डॉक्टर महविश.
माइक ऑन कर लें.
जी सर करिए. सर कंप्लीट ब्लड काउंट फॉर ग्लोबिन एंड प्लेटलेट, और सर मतलब बेसलाइन इन्वेस्टिगेशन, कंप्लीट ब्लड काउंट, हेपेटाइटिस बी सरफेस एंटीजेस, एंटी HCV, ब्लड शुगर, रैंडम ब्लड शुगर लेवल, और यूरिन कंप्लीट एग्जामिनेशन फॉर, और सर और इन स्पेशल इन्वेस्टिगेशन में सर इफ देयर इज एनी sir coagulation profile in case of any bleeding disorder, and thyroid profile in case of any suggestive.
Always don't just go what is written in the book. You have to say, in this patient I'll do this. Don't say just if there's thyroid, hypothyroid, I'll do TSH, I'll do this because of this. In this patient, what we do? Okay, we stop here. But you're doing very well, very well. But after the list of investigation, you have not done so well. You have not done so well, because this is exactly what happens in the examination. You gave me the hemoglobin is 8 gram percent. And in investigation, you did not elaborate. I'll do investigations to find out the type of anemia. At least you should have said that. I will do tests to find out type of anemia. You just took it for granted. This is iron deficiency anemia. So type of anemia will be confirmed or established after blood film, then estimation of ferritin, serum ferritin, right?
Yes, sir.
And they'll confirm whether she has a serum iron capacity, whatever the test to perform to confirm the type of. But you have to use these words in the examination. When you said in blood tests, in that ad, I'll do tests to confirm the type of anemia or to find out the type of anemia. And then it not list what be those tests. If you stop, what are those tests? Then maybe it will be necessary to name those tests. But you have to say this. You did not say that. Okay. Today we will not discuss management of our 8 gram hemoglobin. We'll discuss more. How will you manage? Ultrasound shows that the uterus is multiple small and nothing else. Endometrium is normal lining, smooth, 4 to 5 millimeter thickness. Adnexus clear.
डॉक्टर मैविश जब सर बात कर रहे हो तो आप अपना माइक म्यूट कर लिया करें ताकि ना डिस्टॉर्शन ना हो.
जी सर. Sir, I will admit the patient and take the history and examination, and then a baseline investigation, then discuss the patient with the discuss patient regarding the treatment. I mean,
What treatment you will prescribe to? I mind you, I've changed the patient. She hasn't got uterus 14, 16 week size.
Yes,
She's got uterus which is just bulky or 6 to 8 weeks.
Sir, I will do DNC.
Why do you want to do DNC?
Sir, for sir, heavy menstrual bleeding.
What do you expect that you'll get out of DNC? Which report is going to help you after DNC in the management of the patient?
Sir, it may be sir, it may be could be malignancy.
Do you think this patient has malignancy?
No, sir.
That's not on top of the list.
Yes,
That
sir.
is not on top of the list.
Yes, sir.
Very young. It's only 38.
Yes, sir,
Endometrial
38 years old.
common in later age, not at 38. So, DNC, why do you want to do? For all of you. You know, this is typical examination story. Mahwish, the way she presented, he was very well prepared how to manage that patient with 14 to 16 weeks of uterine size, large fiber. If I had gone on with that patient, she would have excelled. because she had prepared for that. Now, I have just a patient for which she is not prepared. For which she is not prepared. That's why she is stuck. That's why she is stuck. So, in the second tip of the day, always prepare yourself for variable situations in that patient. For variable situations in that patient. That instead of a straightforward diagnosis that she has large fibroid, 16-week size, and I'll do this. Now, here is a patient which is multiple small fibroids and the uterus is only 6 to 8 week size. So, there you go back to your book. And in the chapter of heavy menstrual bleeding, the management after the correction of anemia, management starts with medical treatment. With medical treatment, there are quite a few headings under which medical treatment is prescribed. Initially, you give only transamine or non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, NSAID. Maybe they will control the bleeding. If they don't, then you prescribe maybe progestogens only. If they don't succeed, then you give oral contraceptive pill or even GnRH analog. This is how in the book it goes. In medical treatment. And if medical treatment doesn't work, then you go on to interventions. And the commonest intervention for heavy menstrual bleeding is Mirena. Levonorgestrel IUS intrauterine system, brand name. If you say in the examination Mirena, doesn't matter. They'll accept it. Mirena, insertion of Mirena. If that doesn't work, then you think of some surgical treatment. So all the flow chart you should remember. You should remember that initially, after correction of anemia, you will take care of her anemia. I'll prescribe some medical treatment. If that doesn't work, I'll put intrauterine system into the uterine cavity, Mirena. If that doesn't work, then what are the choices? First choice is the ablation of the endometrium. Then, if that doesn't work, then your second choice is uterine artery embolization. And then third choice is myomectomy, surgical. And after myomectomy, then we come to hysterectomy, various routes of hysterectomy. This is the flow chart for management of heavy menstrual bleeding. And so be prepared for that flow chart. Not the way you presented, good history, for the patient who is 16 weeks uterus, multiple large fibroids, so perhaps medical treatment and our ablation, they're out. We go straight on to discuss whether to do myomectomy or hysterectomy. For that, Dr. Mavish was very well prepared because he had been reading it about it and preparing herself. And she would have answered all those questions. But, as I said, heavy menstrual bleeding. Think of the management, what is written in the book. Be prepared for that. You're lucky if the examiner sticks to this.
Sir, can I ask a question?
Of course. Sure.
Sir, you said after the levonorgestrel intrauterine system, what is the next line of treatment?
If that, we have given already hormone treatment, oral. In the book, perhaps the Mirena is above these hormonal treatments. But I personally feel Mirena is not as popular because of the cost, because of intervention, and cost of insertion of it. So
Hmm.
generally in our system, in our society, the easiest thing is to prescribe hormones. Hormones could
Right.
progestagens only, oral contraceptive pill. I
Okay.
most commonly prescribe oral contraceptive OCP because it costs only 4 rupees a month. Cheapest medicine.
Okay.
It is as effective as Premaglutide or progestogen or monthly injection, medroxyprogesterone, things like that. So I come back to your question that if the Marina is popular, but in the textbook it is number one, then hormones orally or parenterally. But in our country, I would say hormones first, then Marina.
And the
And
third is uterine artery embolization.
just a minute. If Marina fails,
Ji.
then what next? I was discussing what is given in the book, that ablation of the endometrium. But ablation in
Yes.
Pakistan is just not available. But you should be prepared to discuss this and know about uh, first generation, second generation ablation methods, things like that. And if they don't work, then after ablation, you come to surgical treatment, that is now UAE, uterine artery embolization. Even that is not everywhere available. It is available in Hamid Latif Hospital because a Pakistani gynecologist visits from New York does it. It's not done everywhere, but we know UAE. If UAE doesn't work or not indicated in any particular patient, then we go on to surgical treatment. That would be myomectomy or hysterectomy. This will be the main discussion point in the examination in this patient. Will you do myomectomy or will you do hysterectomy? Here is a patient who had previous 3 cesarean sections and perhaps her family is complete. So would you consider hysterectomy in this patient or do myomectomy? And there again, we come to counseling of the patient. You know,
Thank you, sir.
just our counseling is in a way very defective. When you say I'll counsel, adjustment, in a way you say I'll counsel, you are telling that, oh, you had 3.
सर का माइक माइक म्यूट हो गया है.
Hello. Oh, when did it go mute? Where was I? UAE or surgical treatment?
Sir, counseling.
Counseling, sir, counseling.
Counseling of the patient. Our counseling is not really the way it should be. We only tell the patient that you need this, 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 this. In my opinion, this is the treatment. You should have a hysterectomy. We don't give choices to the patient. You should give choice. That I'll counsel my patient that choices of treatment in this patient, in your case, are either myomectomy or hysterectomy. Hysterectomy too, either with the help of laparoscopy or open laparotomy. And if the patient has some degree of prolapse, then vaginal hysterectomy. These are the choices. Let the patient choose. We generally choose for our convenience what we think is final. So this is important that we tell the patient that these are the choices, these are the options. And every choice has plus points and negative points. So I'll just finish and then we come back to the question again. In this patient, because I changed for the discussion purposes, that if she is just bulky uterus, multiple small fibroids need not to be removed. And there are no polypi and only multiple small fibroids and heavy menstrual bleeding. So the how will you manage this patient? First of all, top of the list, I repeat third or fourth time, I'll correct her anemia after making definitive diagnosis. One. Number two, if she did not have any previous treatments, then I'll prescribe only transamin acid and or NS, anti-inflammatory drugs. And if they do not work, then I'll prescribe some hormonal treatment. That could be oral contraceptive pill, most easily prescribed and taken, or progesterone to be taken during proliferative phase, not secretory phase, proliferative phase, starting from proliferative phase. And if they don't work, then I'll discuss with her insertion of Mirena. And after insertion of Mirena, if that doesn't work, then I'll, if facilities are available, ablation of endometrium. Again, that has to be discussed with the patient, because ablation of endometrium is not always successful. There's at least 10% chance that after ablation there will be hysterectomy. So we have to tell the patient that the chances are that ablation is convenient, short hospital stay, no surgery, nothing, but there's a possibility it has some side effects. Persistent pain, discharge for a short while, subsequently maybe even need hysterectomy. Then patient always complains, if this was the final thing, why didn't you do it first time? After ablation, if facilities are available, then UAE, uterine artery embolization, is also a choice. And if these facilities are not available or they don't succeed, then we can discuss surgical treatment. Surgical treatment in this case is either myomectomy or hysterectomy. If she wants hysterectomy, then we have to discuss with the patient route of hysterectomy and method of laparoscopic, conventional, and if you're a very good student, bright, and time left, then maybe the patient, the examiner will ask you conservation of ovaries. Will you remove, in this 38-year-old, will you remove ovaries when you're doing hysterectomy? Then you have to defend yourself why you will remove or why won't you remove. So all this you have to discuss. Now, I can see Yusuf online. So if you've got any questions, please ask. I have still got 7-8 minutes.
अच्छा सर, एक सवाल ये था कि जैसे कि रेगुलर हैवी मेंस्ट्रुअल ब्लीडिंग की ट्रीटमेंट जैसे हमें पता है कि ट्रांसएग्जामिक एनसेड से स्टार्ट करेंगे, लेकिन अगर इरेगुलर पर वेजाइनल ब्लीडिंग है उनको, तो तब क्या हम लोग हार्मोनल से स्टार्ट करेंगे?
जी बिल्कुल, फिर भी जो कि आफ्टर इन्वेस्टिगेशन में मैंने वो ज्यादा एलेबोरेट नहीं किया था कि अल्ट्रासाउंड के साथ MRI और दूसरे टेस्ट करेंगे कि नहीं. Generally not. So while doing ultrasound, we'll see the uterine cavity, thickness of the endometrium, and if there's nothing in the cavity and endometrium is thin, then we can prescribe for irregular bleeding also hormonal treatment. First, we'll cause withdrawal bleeding, and then whatever hormonal method you're going to prescribe, we'll prescribe that. Yes. Because in the differential diagnosis, we discussed the first, on top of the list is anything in the uterine cavity, any foreign body, polyp, or anything. So we rule out that by TVS or abdominal ultrasound and then go on. Yes, please. Anything else?
Yes, sir, वो वॉन विली ब्रांड वाली investigations heavy menstrual bleeding in adolescent women.
जी, फिर बोलिए।
सर heavy menstrual bleeding in adolescent में
हाँ,
investigations पूछी थी आपसे कि क्या
हाँ, अच्छा, मैंने आपको जब during the discussion of this case, I said, whenever you think of the causes, start your thought process must start from congenital causes, and then causes in the uterus, uterine cavity, cervix, walls of the uterus, and then out, then ovaries and things like that. So, adolescent heavy menstrual bleeding is very common. Is very common, and generally we don't think of congenital causes. Because if there's a bicornuate uterus, there's double the amount of endometrium which is going to be shed, and shedding of the endometrium leads to bleeding. So the amount of blood will be double. So think of congenital causes first, that it could be congenital anomaly of the uterus, bicornuate uterus, septate uterus. Even septate uterus has double the amount of endometrium to be shed. So that way. Number two, if the uterus is nothing in the uterus, wall is normal, then we go to the ovaries. We know that the production of hormones, mean all that pituitary, ovary, axis, endometrium, axis, the three organs linked together. It is not smooth right from the word go. It's sort of up and down in this axis. And that's why, because of disturbance of that, the mesocycle either is not regular or it is heavy. So this is because of that pituitary, ovarian, and endometrial axis disturbance. So in adolescent, I always give an example that these days we don't travel by train, but if you go and travel it by train when takes off, it starts with jerks, and then it runs smoothly. Then when it comes to stopping, again it stops with jerks. So same is for menstruation. When it starts at the puberty or menarche, it is with the jerks. Menstrual cycle is not regular right from the word go. It is not normal right from the word go. But then it settles down. When it comes to perimenopausal period, that just before menopause, again there are jerks. Again, the menstrual cycle either is irregular or heavy. So in those cases, it is hormonal upset. Whether it is at puberty or it is. So in a case of adolescent menstrual, after investigation, everything is normal. So first thing is, I'll reassure mother, correct her patient's anemia, and then if need be, prescribe tranexamic acid or non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. And if they don't work, then only I'll go on to oral contraceptive pill, OCP, and generally it is advised to delay OCP or hormonal treatment till late in the puberty, that means 16, 17, 18 years, not earlier, because the estrogens, they interfere with the growth production as well. So your question, heavy menstrual bleeding in an adolescent, number one, we'll think of the causes, and number two, after investigations, correct anemia, and then prescribe tranexamic acid or non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. And if they don't work, only then we'll first prescribe progestrogens because they don't interfere so much as estrogens do. And later, in later teens, 17, 18, I don't mind prescribing OCP because OCP is my favorite drug because it is so convenient for the patient to take. for you to, so easy to explain how to take it and the cost factor. Thank you. Now
Hello.
it's almost 9 o'clock. I can
Hello.
see you. Ji.
सर डॉक्टर साहब का क्वेश्चन